Hey everyone. So I want to take some time to explain what your short stories exam is going to look like next week and to give you some very helpful tips for studying and preparing for that exam. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up the review sheet and we're going to take a look at it together, okay? All right, so first things first. You won't have access to the short stories exam, of course, until you take the week 10 attendance quiz, right? But you can start preparing for it and preparing for it quite extensively beforehand if you choose to do so. The exam is going to consist of 6 short answer questions worth a total of 100 points. So each question is worth a significant number of points. The questions will cover the 5 short stories that we read during weeks 5 through 8. You will be asked to identify the themes as well as various literary elements that we looked at for each story. When you take the exam, be sure you are paying attention to which specific elements the question asks you to discuss. For example, if you are asked to discuss how the structure, setting, and imagery help reveal the theme, be sure those are the 3 elements that you're discussing in your response. You shouldn't be discussing point of view, right? Or atmosphere, or symbolism, structure, setting, and imagery, right? Those are the 3 that you would focus on for that particular question. So pay attention to those literary elements that are listed in the question for that particular story. The 6th short answer question is pretty easy. There is no right or wrong answer to it. It's really more, did you give me a thorough response? But make sure that you answer it and answer it fully to receive full credit for that one, because you don't want to botch an easy question, right? If you've not yet looked at the PowerPoints and watched the accompanying videos for any of the short stories, you'll want to do so before attempting the exam, because all the information you need to answer the questions is contained in the PowerPoints and videos. As always, you should not use outside sources to answer the questions. You should use the information in the lessons, but be sure to put your responses in your own words. Do not copy and paste from the PowerPoints unless there are very specific terms or definitions that you're using. But for the most part, all of your responses should be in your own words, but the information should match up with what was in the lessons, right? So we've all learned how to, summarize and paraphrase, right? Where you take information from a source and put it in your own words. You express the same exact ideas, but in a totally different way. That's what you need to do with the information from the lessons. Same ideas, same information, but put it in your own words, okay? All right, and here, I actually go through each story with you and basically tell you what you need to know for each one. So for the story of an hour, remember we read this for homework in week 5, and then the follow-up lesson is in week 6. You're going to want to discuss the major themes, right? We talked about 2. All right, how did the setting help reveal the theme? And for each of these, so what are the major themes of this story? Be prepared to explain at least one theme in a brief paragraph. What did we learn about the story's setting, and how did the story's setting help us understand the theme? Be prepared to explain your answer in a brief paragraph. What did we learn about the story's use of imagery, and how did the story's imagery help us understand the theme? Be prepared to explain your answer in a brief paragraph. What did we learn about the story's use of symbolism, and how did the story's symbolism help us understand the theme? Be prepared to explain your answer in a brief paragraph, right? So for the story of an hour, your response should be 4 brief paragraphs. The first paragraph is going to explain one of the two themes we looked at. The second paragraph will talk about how the setting of the story relates to the theme. The third paragraph will relate to how the imagery helps us understand the theme. And your fourth paragraph will be how the story's use of symbolism relates to its theme. Okay? Make sure that whatever theme you decide to talk about up here for the first question, that what you're saying about the setting, imagery, and symbolism relate to that theme. So remember, we did talk about two themes, right? You're going to pick one to sort of focus on for the questions. You want to make sure that everything that you are saying about the literary elements relates to that theme, and that you're not like bleeding over into the other theme, right? So what were the two themes? Choose one to focus on, and then how did the literary elements help support that specific theme, right? So 4 brief paragraphs, right? Same thing for Hills Like White Elephants. We read that for homework in week 5. The lessons are in week 6. Same thing. What were the major themes? Again, there were 2. Be prepared to explain at least one theme in a brief paragraph, right? And then the following questions: how did the story structure relate to the theme? Give us a brief paragraph. How did the story setting relate to the theme? Another paragraph. How did the story symbolism relate to the theme? Another paragraph. And again, make sure whatever you're saying about the structure, the setting, and the symbolism all relate directly to the theme you chose to focus on. It's the same for the rest of the stories, right? So the lottery, 2 themes, and then the literary elements for this one are point of view, setting and atmosphere, and symbolism. Everyday use, pick one of the themes. Setting, characters, and symbolism. Speech sounds, pick one of the themes. Setting and atmosphere, and symbolism, right? So this is pretty much what the exam is going to be set up like. There are no surprises here. You are pretty much being given exactly what is on the exam so that you can prepare. And the reason that I am giving you such an insight into what the actual questions will be is because you cannot access the exam until week 10 begins. That is Monday at 12:01 a.m. at the earliest. So when Sunday night turns into Monday at midnight, that's the earliest, the soonest that you can access the short stories exam. It is due Wednesday night at 11:59 p.m. So you really only have 3 full days to complete the short stories exam. It has to be submitted by Wednesday night because I need Thursday to grade them because final grades are due Friday. And I have 3 other classes also where I'm grading, exams and research papers, and everybody's final grades have to be submitted by Friday. So the due date for everything in week 10 is Wednesday night. So you only have 3 full days to complete this exam. And because of that, I am giving you the questions ahead of time. I want you to be able to prepare and do as well as possible on this exam. Remember, it's 35% of your overall grade, and there's no chance to do corrections this time. That is why it is important not only that you prepare as much as you can, but why it is also important that you do not use outside sources or copy and paste anything, because you'll get a 0 for that question and you don't have a chance to redo it. So I'm giving you everything you need to prepare for the exam so that once you are able to access it, sometime Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, you can go in and you can complete this exam with confidence and, a certain amount of speed. So please use this to your advantage. Okay. All right. If you have any questions or you are confused about any of the stories, you're not sure, looking at that review and looking at each question for each story, if there's anything you are unsure of while you're studying, reach out to me. If anything at all, any questions you have as you're going through that review, please reach out to me. Again, I want to make sure that you guys can do as well as you can with the limited amount of time you have to complete the exam next week. Okay. All right. So try to prepare as much as you can. And I'm here if you have any questions.